February 24th, 2022. 0600 hours. Snake Island, also known as Zmyny Island, a small Ukrainian territory in the Black Sea, approximately 45 kilometers from the Romanian coast. Russian warships approach the island defended by 13 Ukrainian border guards. The radio exchange becomes instantly famous. Russian vessel demands surrender. Ukrainian response, immortalized globally, consists of two words expressing defiance. Russian naval forces shell the island. The garrison, outgunned and isolated, eventually surrenders. Russian forces occupy the strategically positioned outcrop, establishing air defense systems and garrison forces. The occupation will last 126 days. The battle for Snake Island begins. The island itself measures approximately 17 hectares, roughly 42 acres of rocky terrain. The strategic value vastly exceeds the physical size. Control of Snake Island provides radar coverage across significant portions of the northwestern Black Sea. Air defense systems positioned on the island extend protective umbrella over Russian naval operations and complicate Ukrainian air and maritime movements. The location offers potential missile deployment sites threatening Romanian territory and shipping routes. Ukrainian military planners immediately identify Snake Island as a priority target requiring liberation. April 27th marks the first documented Ukrainian strike attempting to contest Russian control. Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drones, already proven effective in previous engagements, attack Russian positions on the island. The TB2, a medium-altitude, long-endurance, unmanned combat aerial vehicle, carries precision-guided munitions enabling strikes from beyond most short-range air defense engagement envelopes. Ukrainian forces released video showing a TB2 launched missile destroying a Russian Tor air defense system on Snake Island. The footage, verified through geolocation matching island features visible in satellite imagery, confirms the strike eliminated one of the systems protecting the Russian garrison. Which factor was most critical here? A. Intelligence failure. B. Equipment limitations. C. Tactical surprise. The Russian response demonstrates the tactical challenge Ukrainian forces face. Additional air defense systems deploy to the island, including Strela and Osa platforms, providing layered coverage against aerial threats. Russian forces bring additional personnel and equipment via helicopter and landing craft, reinforcing the garrison despite Ukrainian harassment. The island becomes a testing ground for Russian ability to hold isolated positions under sustained attack versus Ukrainian capability to project power across water against defended targets. May 2nd brings escalation. Ukrainian forces employ Neptune anti-ship missiles, the same weapon type that sank the cruiser Moskva weeks earlier against Russian positions. Two missiles strike a Russian Cerna-class landing craft near the island. Video evidence released by Ukrainian forces shows the vessel burning and subsequently sinking. The strike demonstrates Ukrainian ability to target naval assets supporting the Snake Island garrison, complicating Russian resupply efforts. Satellite imagery from May 3rd confirms wreckage visible in shallow water near the island, matching the reported landing craft loss. The sustained campaign pattern emerges through May. Ukrainian forces launch approximately 15 documented strikes against the island using various weapon systems. TB2 drones conduct multiple attacks despite Russian air defense presence. Artillery fire from mainland positions, though at extreme range, occasionally reaches the island. The cumulative pressure prevents Russian forces from developing substantial infrastructure and forces continuous defensive vigilance. May 7th represents a significant Russian loss. Ukrainian TB2 drones strike and destroy a Russian Mi-8 helicopter delivering supplies to the island. The attack, captured on drone camera and released publicly, shows the helicopter on the island's landing area when the missile impacts. The explosion completely destroys the aircraft and likely kills the crew. Follow-up strikes the same day reportedly damage or destroy additional helicopters attempting resupply missions. The helicopter losses force Russian commanders to reconsider resupply methods, as the air defense umbrella proves insufficient to guarantee safe landing operations. The tactical adaptation by both sides demonstrates military proficiency. Russian forces attempt nighttime resupply operations, reducing TB2 effectiveness. Ukrainian forces respond by employing different sensor types and attack platforms. Russian air defense operators improve their engagement procedures, achieving several successful intercepts of incoming Ukrainian weapons. Ukrainian planners increased strike complexity, using decoys and multi-axis approaches to overwhelm defenses. Have you seen the satellite images from this strike? Check the sources linked in description. June 17th through 20th marks the most intensive period of the campaign. Ukrainian forces launch a coordinated multi-day operation employing air, maritime, and artillery assets simultaneously. The operation, documented through multiple Ukrainian military statements and corroborated by satellite imagery analysis, aims to render the island untenable for Russian occupation. June 17th attacks include TB2 strikes against air defense positions and shore installations. Ukrainian artillery, firing from mainland positions over 40 kilometers distant, conducts sustained bombardment. The artillery fire, while inaccurate at such extreme range, forces Russian personnel into shelters and disrupts operations. Russian forces respond with their own artillery fire directed at suspected Ukrainian launch positions on the coast. June 18th sees the documented destruction of a Russian Raptor-class patrol boat near the island. Ukrainian forces employ a combination of TB2 drones and artillery in a coordinated strike. The patrol boat, providing security for the island's sea approaches, explodes following multiple hits. Sailors abandon the sinking vessel. Some casualties are visible in the footage. The loss further isolates the garrison by removing one of the protective naval assets. June 20th brings claims of Russian Su-30 fighter aircraft shot down near Snake Island. Ukrainian Air Force reports a successful engagement, though the specific weapon system remains unclear. Russian sources neither confirm nor deny the loss. No definitive wreckage evidence emerges, leaving this particular claim in disputed status. However, the pattern of Ukrainian claims during this period shows general reliability when compared against verifiable evidence from other engagements. The cumulative damage assessment through late June paints a clear picture. Russian forces on Snake Island have lost multiple air defense systems, several helicopters, at least one landing craft, one patrol boat, and sustained casualties among garrison personnel. The island's infrastructure, never substantial, suffers from repeated strikes. Resupply operations face extreme risk. The position, while symbolically and strategically valuable, costs increasingly more to maintain than the value it provides. Which system proves most effective in this conflict? A. Long-range missiles. B. Drone swarms. C. Combined operations. June 30th, Russian Ministry of Defense announces withdrawal from Snake Island. The official statement frames the decision as a goodwill gesture to facilitate grain exports from Ukrainian ports, demonstrating Russia's commitment to preventing global food crisis. Western analysts and Ukrainian officials characterize the withdrawal differently, describing it as forced retreat following sustained Ukrainian military pressure, making the position untenable. Satellite imagery dated July 1st shows the island devoid of Russian military equipment. Destroyed vehicles and debris remain visible, but no operational Russian presence continues. Ukrainian forces do not immediately occupy the island, likely due to concerns about mines and unexploded ordnance contaminating the small territory. The battle for Snake Island concludes with Ukrainian strategic victory. The casualty accounting proves difficult given limited access and conflicting claims. Ukrainian forces acknowledge losses during the campaign, though specific numbers remain classified. TB2 drones, while effective, are not invulnerable. Several reportedly fell to Russian air defense during the campaign. Artillery crews conducting fire missions from mainland positions faced counter-battery fire. The human cost, while lower than ground combat operations, still registers. Russian casualties likely number dozens killed and wounded, based on the frequency and intensity of successful Ukrainian strikes. The documented helicopter losses alone suggest crew deaths approaching 20 or more. Landing craft and patrol boat sinkings add additional casualties. The garrison personnel faced months of isolation under regular attack, creating psychological strain beyond physical danger. The strategic impact assessment reveals significance beyond the small island's physical characteristics. Russian Black Sea Fleet operations faced complications from the loss. The air defense and radar coverage gap created by withdrawal from Snake Island reduced Russian ability to protect naval assets operating in the northwestern Black Sea. Ukrainian maritime drone operations against Russian naval targets in subsequent months benefited from reduced Russian surveillance and defensive coverage in the area. The symbolic dimension matters substantially. The garrison's initial defiant response became a rallying point for Ukrainian resistance. The subsequent liberation, achieved through sustained military pressure rather than negotiation, demonstrated Ukrainian capability to reverse Russian territorial gains through force. The impact on morale and international perception provided value beyond military calculation. Does this pattern indicate a shift in Russian or Ukrainian strategy? Comment your analysis. The tactical lessons from Snake Island operations inform both sides' subsequent planning. For Ukrainian forces, the campaign validated combined arms approaches using available assets creatively. TB2 drones, anti-ship missiles, long-range artillery, and potentially air defense systems all contributed to achieving the objective. No single weapon system proved decisive. The integration of multiple capabilities in coordinated operations generated effects exceeding the sum of individual components. For Russian forces, the Snake Island experience highlighted vulnerabilities in attempting to hold isolated positions against determined opposition possessing precision strike capability. The small garrison, regardless of defensive systems, could not achieve local air superiority against TB2 attacks or prevent artillery harassment. Resupply under fire proved costly and dangerous. The lesson suggests avoiding similar positions or allocating substantially more resources to defense than initially committed. The logistics dimension deserves emphasis. Russian forces attempted to sustain a garrison 45 kilometers from friendly territory across water under regular attack. Every supply delivery, personnel rotation, and equipment replacement required risky transit. Ukrainian forces operating from mainland positions faced simpler logistics despite weapons employment at extreme ranges. The defender's advantage typically favors the side holding territory, but in this case, the isolated nature of the position reversed traditional calculations. The mine and unexploded ordnance problem created by the battle complicates post-conflict recovery. Snake Island, heavily bombarded over months, contains numerous unexploded munitions. Russian forces, during withdrawal, likely emplaced additional mines to delay Ukrainian reoccupation. The cleanup effort requires specialized personnel and equipment. The island remains largely unusable until demining completes. The environmental impact, while secondary to military considerations, includes ecosystem damage from explosions, fuel spills from destroyed vehicles and vessels, and potential unexploded ordnance contaminating waters surrounding the island. The recovery timeline for the island's limited biosphere remains uncertain. If you follow verified military analysis, type verified. The propaganda value of Snake Island for both sides generated extensive information operations. Russian forces emphasized control during occupation, portraying the garrison as successfully defending strategic territory against Ukrainian attacks. Ukrainian forces highlighted each successful strike, building narrative of inevitable liberation through military pressure. The final withdrawal allowed each side to claim victory through different framing. The documentation quality varies across the campaign timeline. Early strikes benefit from TB2 drone footage, providing clear visual evidence. Later operations rely more on satellite imagery and official statements without equivalent video documentation. The assessment relies on correlating multiple sources to verify claims where direct evidence proves limited. Open-source intelligence analysts contributed substantially to documenting the campaign through examination of commercial satellite imagery, social media posts from the region, and technical analysis of released footage. The campaign timeline of 126 days demonstrates sustained military operations against a fixed target. The duration allowed both sides to adapt tactics repeatedly. Initial strikes exploited surprise and gaps in Russian defenses. Middle period operations faced improved Russian countermeasures requiring Ukrainian tactical evolution. Final phase operations benefited from cumulative degradation of Russian defensive capability and logistic sustainability. The cost-effectiveness calculation favors Ukrainian operations. The weapons expended, while not cheap, cost substantially less than the Russian equipment destroyed and operational disruption achieved. TB2 drones, approximately $5 million per unit, destroyed targets worth multiples of that cost. Neptune missiles, approximately 2 million per round, sank vessels worth tens of millions. Artillery shells, hundreds of dollars each, damaged infrastructure requiring expensive repair or replacement. What tactical adaptation should we watch for next? Share your thoughts. The international dimension included Romanian interest given the island's proximity to Romanian territorial waters. NATO surveillance assets likely monitored the campaign, providing intelligence potentially shared with Ukrainian forces. The precedent of combat operations near NATO territory without direct alliance involvement influenced subsequent conflict dynamics. The historical parallel to other isolated position battles provides context. Military history includes numerous examples of costly defenses of symbolic locations. Snake Island joins that tradition as a position held beyond strict military logic due to political and symbolic considerations, then abandoned when costs exceeded benefits. The comparison to other contested territories in the Russia-Ukraine conflict reveals Snake Island's unique characteristics. Unlike land borders where front lines shift based on ground force movements, this represented a maritime-focused campaign with aerial warfare playing the decisive role. The lessons applied differently to mainland operations. The Ukrainian success on Snake Island did not directly translate to capabilities in other domains. The final assessment considers what the battle demonstrated about each side's capabilities. Ukrainian forces showed proficiency with Turkish drones, coordination across multiple systems, and sustained operational planning. Russian forces demonstrated limitations in protecting isolated positions, vulnerability to precision strike weapons, and difficulty adapting quickly to changing tactical situations. The 4-month battle for a small island in the Black Sea revealed capabilities and limitations that informed subsequent operations. The liberation of Snake Island stands as a Ukrainian victory achieved through sustained military pressure. Real strikes, real adaptation, real outcomes. Subscribe to Skyfall Warfare for documented analysis of real aerial warfare. Sources in description.